what's up?
I'd like to take this opportunity to frankly apologize for everything I've ever done in television. I am so sorry. I have ruined the culture. And, I just hope hell isn't that hot. I burn real easy. I'm very light complected. I hope you all pray for me, because if I get to heaven, you're all going.
Jerry Springer is iconic in more ways than one. A lot of people feel like he revolutionized television, paving the way for what we're able to see now on TV. The Girls Next Door, Love and Hip Hops, and the Bad Girls Clubs of it all. He made it more acceptable for trash TV. Many felt like he was a good mediator, being the voice of reason for outrageous storylines on his show. Jerry Springer became the most watched daytime show on television, knocking Oprah from her spot. You'd think breaking these type of records brought Jerry happiness from being the top host on television, but it did the complete opposite. Jerry Springer became one of Jerry's biggest regrets, with the world calling him the king of sleaze and the pioneer of trash TV. Not the respected daytime host he thought he would be. Netflix's new documentary touched the surface of Jerry's most scandalous moments and how impactful the show truly was. The show had the most salacious, corrupt, and downright unbelievable storylines that at times were disturbing to watch, but too addicting to turn off. He had storylines that were so chaotic that there was even a involved. How did something so simple for Jerry turn into a situation he couldn't believe was true himself? Jerry Springer's life story is as compelling as it is unique. Born in London during the intense period of World War II, he was the child of Jewish parents who fled the Holocaust. This beginning marked the start of a journey that would take him across the Atlantic to Queens, New York, where he grew up. Pursuing higher education, Jerry attended the prestigious Northwestern University School of Law, where he earned his law degree. This legal foundation set the stage for his active engagement in politics. His political career began at a high note, working on Robert Kennedy's presidential campaign in 1968, a role that immersed him in the national political scene. Jerry's political journey continued in Cincinnati, where he served as a city council member. But that itself didn't come without some good old Jerry T. In 1974, he faced a major personal scandal. He admitted to having hired an incident uncovered during a police operation by the Vice Squad. A Vice Squad is a special unit that tackles crimes like gambling, drug trafficking, and prostitution. The proof came to light when the authorities found that Jerry had paid for the services with a bounced check during a raid. Faced with the fallout, Jerry chose to step down from his council position. He openly addressed the matter at a press conference, acknowledging his mistake and making it clear that no public funds were involved in his personal actions. But of course, public funds weren't used since the check bounced. But despite the setback, Jerry's political career and public service did not end. He regained a seat on the city council the very next year, thanks to his honest approach to dealing with the scandal. He later served as Cincinnati's mayor from 1977 to 1978. He left the scandal unscathed, with this being the beginning of his autobiography. After his time in office, Jerry shifted gears to broadcasting, becoming a local news anchor in Cincinnati, earning 10 regional Emmy Awards. He said goodbye to being an anchor and moved on to his own talk show.
Okay, bear with me, this will be a little tough. You should know this isn't the first time I thought about leaving. I thought about it some 20 years ago when a check that would soon become part of Cincinnati folklore made me see life from the bottom. To be honest, the thought about ending it all crossed my mind. But a more reasonable alternative seemed to be, hey, how about just leaving town, running away, starting life over someplace else? And then I think it was a night or two later, Al Shuttlecotty, the man who defined local television news for a generation of us, ran what he called his spotlight report entitled, Who Was Jerry Springer? You see, in political terms as well as human, here in Cincinnati, I was dead. But then, in probably the luckiest decision I ever made, I decided, no, I'm staying put. You see, I selfishly didn't want there to be any place in America where I couldn't go, where I couldn't one day with child or grandchildren return, barred by some shame and scandal. No, if I were going to beat it, I'd have to beat it where it happened, right here in River City. And so it became an obsession. I would withstand all the jokes, all the ridicule. I'd pretend it didn't hurt. And I would give every ounce of my being to Cincinnati. Why, in time, I was thinking, you'd have to like me. Or if not like me, at least respect me. And I'd run for council, even unendorsed. And I'd prove to you I could be the best public servant you ever had, or I'd die trying. Be it as a mayor, an anchor, or a commentator, whatever it took, I was determined to have you know that I was more than a check and a hooker on a one-night stand.
The first seasons of Jerry Springer aired in 1991 and was like any modern talk show. At the time, it didn't rely on chaos for content. Oprah Winfrey reigned as supreme over daytime television, with her show drawing in over 10 million viewers daily. Her program, known for its emotional reveals and mild drama, set the standard while countless similar shows merely echoed her success. During this time, The Jerry Springer Show made its debut with little fanfare. Jerry, leveraging his background in politics, initially followed the regular talk show format, focusing on heartfelt narratives like family reunions and personal victories. His show was just another show on daytime. It didn't stand out the way NBC wanted it to and was on the verge of being canceled.
And you've got a pretty good life going right now. As I understand it, you're a senior in high school?
Yeah.
What's next?
College.
You're going to college. And you know what? We have a nice surprise for you today, okay?
What?
You are going to meet your daughter, Sandy, who you have not seen in 35 years. Sandy? Sandy?
So his production team decided to take a dramatic turn. They brought in Richard Dominic, who had a niche for creating dramatic headlines to draw in crowds.
Was replaced by show producer Richard Dominic, who had once worked for the supermarket tabloids. He had his own ideas for making Jerry a success.
Wait a second. I always felt that if we could do a talk show using Jerry's personality, instead of trying to mold him into something he wasn't, we would have a guy who would become a star.
Dominic took over just after an unexpected element began to emerge.
One more time. You will have.
At first, Jerry claimed the impromptu violence on his show was unacceptable.
Everybody sit down. Down.
We are back, and let me first apologize for the disruption at the end of the show. It is not, I don't want to be a part of anything which brings violence into anybody's home.
However, Jerry couldn't deny the positive effect on his ratings. The show was beginning to catch on. To really succeed, it needed to exploit its unusual content and Jerry's emerging persona. Jerry and Richard Dominic decided to aim their show at a new, untapped audience.
So we decided that we were going to go after what I like to call the Letterman crowd, because there was nobody doing a show for college kids.
You ain't nothing but punk kid. Come on then, show me what a punk kid I am.
It doesn't... The first thing we did is we made the show very sexy. We called the producers in here and we said, it has to be interesting with the sound off, because nobody was watching us. Nobody knew who Jerry Springer was. So the first thing we did is we put his name up on the screen for the whole show. So if you hit it at any moment, you would know who you were watching.
Whoa, no, baby. Almost immediately, Jerry's ratings took off.
His first change to the show was to make the audience chant Jerry's name to make it appear more lively. The show went from jazz intros to the iconic Jerry chant. The show quickly became a national sensation, pushing the barriers, exposing the most grotesque storylines. Initially, the show was relegated to a 2 a.m. time slot, a slot that nobody wanted because of the limited audience reach. However, as the show began to embrace more sensational content, it gained a unique following and increased its viewership. That's all it took for NBC to move the slot to daytime television, airing the show during the night and the day. This switch not only reached audiences who preferred different viewing times, but also doubled the opportunities for attracting viewers. Those who missed the daytime airing could catch up with the evening slot and vice versa, boosting the show's overall viewer numbers. It wasn't until the 1998 episode of Jerry, featuring Mark, a farmer from Missouri, became a prime example of how dramatic the show had transformed by that time. Mark came on the show to introduce his new partner, whom he had chosen over his wife and children. The audience was stunned when they learned that his partner of 10 years was Pixel, a Shetland pony. During the episode, Mark openly expressed his affection for Pixel, sharing details of their relationship and even their plans to get married. The episode took an even more controversial turn when it showed photographs of Pixel dressed in women's lingerie. Mark explained their relationship seriously, stating, "When it comes to we make love, we don't make fun of each other." Obviously, this was sick and disgusting, but at the same time, it seemed too good to be true, which again made viewers turned in and were even more intrigued about what was really happening. The episode was only broadcast on the East Coast due to its controversial content. The other networks decided to censor it, and the media backlash was immediate. Critics denounced the show as one of the most repulsive spectacles aired on TV. But as we all know, all publicity isn't bad publicity, even if it's bad publicity. This is known as the Streisand effect. The attempt to suppress the episode only made it more sought after. Viewership's numbers soared, and for the first time, Jerry's ratings surpassed Oprah. Jerry Springer was the show you could find the craziest stories, and people were willing to do whatever for camera time and talk about things that were considered to be too heinous for other networks. Fighting became a regular part of the show, and even for Jerry one time. Jerry had a neo-Nazi on an episode that ended up with him and the guests almost being in a physical altercation when the guests started attacking Jerry's background.
Okay, I know you're trying to get my goat, but let's...
Get your goat.
Yeah, let me answer what you said. You asked me a question.
I got your mom in the trunk of my car.
You got what?
Your relatives.
You got what?
Your relatives. What they all turned into soap? I know
You
about 30
shut
minutes.
your face right now.
The show had guests and the host fighting, appearances from the KKK, women getting naked on the show. Jerry might have taken Oprah's spot, but even Jerry had to admit that the show's dynamics weren't the best. He was quoted even saying, "If you wanted to save whales, you called Oprah. If you slept with a whale, you called us." Because of the show's craziness, a lot of people began to wonder on whether or not the guests were fake. Even though the producers on the show were adamant that the guests and the storylines were real in the documentary, a lot of people online had come out and said that that is not true. With Reddit users saying they personally know people that were on the show that fabricated storylines. It became known later on that the show had a fight quota with each guest, with producers orchestrating the whole thing. If guests were real, they would make sure to give them free drinks and amp them up, and if they were fake, they would give them lines and tell them when they should be fighting.
Maybe. But is it really honest? Not according to these people.
They wanted us to stick to the script that they pre-wrote for us.
So you were being brought on as pure actors.
Exactly.
Jenny Tarnowski and Jason Allar have been together for almost 4 years. In real life, they say they've got a great relationship. But that's not how viewers of the Jerry Springer Show saw it.
Today, the guests on my show will tell their longtime lovers that they've been having a secret affair.
They were told that Gary, Jason's brother, was having an affair with Jenny, a scenario the trio claims was totally fabricated by Springer producer Norm LeBeau.
He gave us a written script, like a starting of a sentence, and then what we had to do was we had to put the sentence together and make a story out of the sentences that he gave us.
So did you rehearse?
Oh,
Yeah, for about a day and a half.
They say they practiced in a hotel room, coached by Norm LeBeau, who they say gave them this outline of what they were supposed to say. As you can see, every sleazy detail of the invented story is carefully plotted, including this stage direction. Jenny will turn to Jason and tell him, although she loves him, she's also been seeing someone else for the past 6 months.
So, fun fact. When I was 18, I was on Jerry Springer. That's me. I was 18. That whole trip was so much fun, but filming was so awkward and I could not take myself seriously. Primarily because they had me in bright pink lipstick, a shirt with Chris's face on it, and Lord knows what the hell they did to my hair. But other than that, I had a lot of fun. I still can't believe I did that. Like, looking back, almost 21 years old now, I'm like, oh, who is she? I wouldn't change a thing other than how awkward I was on camera, because that was just ridiculous.
Apparently, it was technically real because Jerry was never the one to scout his guests. He simply read off the cards given to him and introduced the guests, so it was real for him considering he wasn't involved in the casting. So when people kept asking him if it was real, he said yes because he had nothing to do with it. But if people weren't on the show faking storylines or the producers over-dramatized it for ratings, it was good enough for him.
Looking back, it's hard not to think that maybe some of them were staged or a couple little setups here and there. There's been a lot of talk about this over the years, so you need to clear this up for us right now. How real were these scenarios and these people?
I'd say it was 98% real. In fact, the lawyers were involved. You'd get sued if you made it up. Now, if you're asking me, was there ever a time when someone fooled us? And to this day, we don't know that they made it up. But before you get on the show, you sit in a room with the cameras rolling and the lawyers, and you are liable for making up a story.
As sleazy as Jerry Springer came off, it was virtually everywhere. People loved to hate watch it because it was entertaining and honestly very stupid. But that's something that Jerry even admitted himself.
People have, I guess, watched for 27 years my crazy show. I'm never yelling at the guests. I'm never cursing. It's easier to be yourself than to play any other role.
Jerry has more ass than you do.
I mean, I never took it seriously. I mean, I always knew it was a stupid show.
You're saying the stuff that people said about your show when it began 25 years ago. There was a lot, I mean, people loved it on the one hand. A lot of people thought, this is about to destroy proper television in America. This is destroying the society.
And I succeeded in destroying television. No, the show's stupid. I mean, to be honest, it's ridiculous.
What about distractions out there, right? What if people are sick of watching cable news, sick of reading the news online, and they just want to watch the Jerry Springer show?
Look, my show is stupid. It's stupid. But it's fun to do. I enjoy it. People obviously like it, otherwise they wouldn't watch it.
Why do you think it's stupid?
Well, because it has no redeeming social value. It's an hour of escapism.
No matter how dumb it was, that didn't stop anything as the money and fame were rolling in. Jerry became a punchline that was parodied and used as remarks on TV. They released DVDs featuring some of the most memorable and shocking moments from the show. The brand also grew through spin-offs like the Steve Wilkos Show, who was the former head of security on Jerry's show. This show relatively had the same concept, but instead focused more on resolving serious issues and moral issues. Even if you hated Jerry, I think we can all agree that the best part of the show was towards the end when they were doing the roasting sessions. We definitely got a few gems out of that.
This is for the lady in the brown. You have 2 sugar daddies and couldn't get your teeth fixed?
First of all, I'd like to congratulate you, Jerry, on some good furniture, because it's holding that thing up with the grace of God.
First of all, the chair you sitting in bent. Like, I'm gonna need you to quit.
Her name was KK. Does it stand for Kit Kat?
You look like.
Before social media clout, there was Jerry clout, where people usually went on and were quickly lavished by things they've never experienced before. A free trip, a nice limo, and a nice hotel. Before things got faker as the seasons went on, Jerry exploited some people's real stories for ratings.
It's television. And I don't mean any disrespect to people that are in the business, but it's only entertainment. And I would never say watch the show. I wouldn't watch it. I'm not interested in it. But it's not aimed at 61-year-old men. It's aimed at, college kids.
But you can't be that detached from it, really. I mean, that's a cop-out, really. I'm not really interested in it. It doesn't.
I'm not. I enjoy making a living at it, but I'm not. But that's not a cop-out. That's the truth. I'm not interested in it. I wouldn't watch. I say it all the time.
I mean, it is without doubt compulsive viewing. There is in all of us that voyeuristic thing that we we'd like watching us, the human race, in extremis. I mean, it's the same sort of thing, isn't it?
No.
Is it not?
No.
What's different?
These are outrage. These are people that are either outrageous or involved in outrageous situations.
Despite everything, Jerry ran for over 20 seasons for 20 years. Regardless, it was a job for him and did become a universally iconic show. His self-awareness allows him to understand that he helped shape TV culture in a negative way, despite how real some of the storylines were. The exploitation was the beginning of a new wave of television. Well, that concludes today's video. Let me know what you think about Jerry Springer down below, and make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Toodles!